Yo, what's going on, everybody? Another episode here of Win Sports. It's been a minute. Me and Skylar Nelson here have been at OTAs and at training camp. We have not been able to do a video for a while. I've been busy moving locations, so I'm in a new spot. It's been great. There's more space here, but as you can see, I got a lot more work to do behind me. But definitely nice to be back here. We figured we kind of go out and do another video, talk about what we've been seeing at training camp. Mini camp. It's been a great. It was a great 3 days. OTAs also was great. But yeah, we just want to come back here, kind of give you guys some more intel. Skylar, how are you doing? How is life right now for you?
I'm doing good. It's summertime now. I feel like the last time we talked, it was really cold outside. So,
Yes. Yeah.
it's summertime. It's nice. Today's Juneteenth. So,
hmm
there's a lot of
Happy
things.
Juneteenth to everybody out there, man.
It's happy. It's a happy day, a happy time. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, look, we wanted to come out and kind of talk about, what we've been seeing out there. It's been fun. You know what I mean? It's been a new energy overall. Like,
Yeah.
OTAs brought a lot of new faces, right? The people we haven't seen before. A lot of new people on this squad overall. And yeah, man. I mean, I basically I'm just been really excited about what this team might have to offer. I feel like they are kind of flying a little bit under the radar as of late. So basically, we wanted to just talk about what we've been seeing out there. So we'll probably just go through like a run of offense, defense, special teams a little bit there. But I also wanted to talk about just intriguing players that have been out there. We'll probably do like three each or something like that, just to kind of talk about guys that either are in critical spots of their career, guys who have been showing out, or guys that might have a new role on this team moving forward. So, first let's talk about the offense, man. I mean, what have you been seeing out there on the offense side of the ball that's been kind of exciting for you? How different do you think this team's going to be like?
Honestly, this offense it's definitely a new vibe in this off-season period. I mean, obviously last year camp kind of felt a little weird with everything going on, with the Terry McLaurin contract standoff.
Yeah.
I do feel like, this year the offense is focused. It seems like that the players are buying into this offense. They love what this offense is bringing, and it's definitely an exciting time. Definitely it's great to see a guy like David Blau out there, although he hasn't coached or commanded the field
Yeah.
before. Just seeing him, he seems like when we first saw like him in his intro press conference, it gave kind of like soft, shy guy type of vibes. Don't
Yeah.
want to give away too much, but I'm coming in here and I'm serious. Getting to see him in OTAs and then also getting to see him in minicamp, he's very vocal. He knows
Yeah.
what he wants. I just love like even like two practices ago, I kind of like was seeing him and how he interacted with Jaden. Like during the warm-ups, like obviously all of the offense, splits into their position groups. They have their little drills to start off the day. But what I liked is he really started with the QBs and worked his way around the field.
Yeah.
He went from QBs to like O line, and then he kind of ended with like the wide receivers and the RBs, which I really loved. And
hmm
it kind of just, it was kind of like, I gave a focus and like I'm putting the focus out there and like
Yeah.
I'm seeing everything out there on the field. I'm vocal, but I'm allowing the players to perform.
Yeah.
And that's what I think, is what is allowing everybody to buy into this culture, buy into this offense. And I think it's great. We got to see Jaden Daniels under center. He
hmm
looks very comfortable there. He even told us that he's comfortable there. And, players see that. And it kind of gives, it kind of opens up, room for the run game to advance. It kind of opens up, for the O line to, provide that protection. I think, it brings a lot of opportunities here as a whole. It's all about getting the right targets and having those right plays so that Jaden can execute and so that they can score. So,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
good.
it's been good. I mean, I think you're right. Obviously, they have new people running these sides of the ball, whether it's
Hmm.
offense and defense. And for the offensive side, like, Blau is he's like kind of a little quirky. Like I think when you're, interviewing him, he just seems kind of like, low key, down to earth, kind of chill.
Hmm.
But we see a little bit more of his personality when he's coaching out there. He seems to have fun. Like he's into drill. Most of
Yes.
these coaches are just chilling to the side while they're letting the other coaches kind of run the drills. He's running these drills. Like he has bags. He's smacking the balls, trying to get them out of their hands and stuff like that. So
Yes.
he's just really engaged with them overall. I think he brings like that youth energy as well. But he seems very locked in, and I think that there is this element of a coach being like more of like an enforcer type of person. I think we're going to see a little bit more of that as he gets more and more seasoned. But it has been fun just to see the offense and how much it's changed significantly, when it comes to how much more we've seen them under center, how comfortable Jaden has looked as well.
Yes.
And so Jaden's been focused. Let's talk about like the quarterbacks overall. Like, I mean, and mainly let's talk about Jaden. I mean, it's been interesting to see Jaden how locked in he is. We saw him
Yeah.
talking about, answering questions about last year and how he doesn't want to talk about last year anymore. He's ready to
Yeah.
move forward. What kind of position do you think Jaden's in right now? Like, you see him, moving forward and having a successful season this year.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Jaden Daniels, that's JD5. That's that kid. He's going to give that winning mentality. He's always focused. Dan Quinn even said earlier during the week, or, just at the start of minicamp, he even said, something about Jaden Daniels hasn't changed as a person, but he's enhanced.
Yeah.
They're looking for that communication, the vocal leadership. I
Yeah.
think Jaden is growing into that. And, he even said it comes with maturity. It comes with, as time goes on. I feel like that this is a crucial time period, just like Dan Quinn said, because, they don't want to be making their evaluations or putting the pieces together at training camp. They want
Yeah.
training camp to be the time to be like, okay, now it's time to execute, to make sure that this works. And even Dan Quinn said, let's add to that. They don't want to take training camp to finally put the pieces together. It should already be together. And I agree with DQ on that. But for Jaden specifically, he looks comfortable. He looks in shape. He looks stronger. He looks the part. It's all about, I think, this year it's more of an emphasis. Obviously, he's trying to stay as healthy as possible. He's putting himself out there. I think, just with Jaden, the mindset this year is just to win and to be focused. And like most of the guys have said, it starts during this time. It doesn't start
Yeah.
in training camp. And I
Yeah.
think that's where they're at right now.
So, okay, look, let's talk about a lot of the people who's around him, right? We know Jaden,
Hmm.
and I think that even though he had a different year last year because of injuries, to be honest, if you watch the film and watch how he played, he actually played pretty well. It just didn't play enough, right? He got hurt too
Yeah.
many times. The offense had a lot of guys missing, so they did bring some reinforcements in, but they also have guys that are in, their second year or third year, like guys that are, going out and bringing something to the table. So, like, talking about the running back, receiver, tight ends group, the people who are going to be helping him tote the rock and catch the ball and all that kind of stuff. Is there anybody or like, is there any group that has been more surprising to you than others or that have been more impressive to you?
Honestly, I mean, on the offensive side, I definitely
Yeah.
will say, there's been a lot of conversations about the wide receiver room, the running back room. I will say those are the two groups specifically that have, I'm not going to say surprised me the most, but
Yeah.
my eyes have been on them kind of the most on the offensive side because, obviously last year, injuries and the depth idea of depth was the issue, right?
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
just like, obviously people didn't want to see those depth guys all the time, but when we needed them the most, they weren't there. So, it's like it's very important to think about the depth and you have to look at the whole room as a whole. I think for the wide receiver room, it's great to have Diami back. Dan
Yeah.
Quinn said that, Van Jefferson is a guy that, we should be keeping an eye on. I kind of agree. We have to, see how Van progresses in this offense. We have to
Yeah.
see how he progresses in the team. We can't ignore Van because he has experience in the NFL, right? So we have to also think about that. And, we can't forget about guys like Jalen Lane, Luke McCaffrey, although people are like, oh, they need to be faster and this and that. You got to understand, Luke is in his third year, Jalen is in his second year. And from the conversations that I've had and seen, they are taking this offseason seriously. They are trying to enhance their game. I feel like, especially around minicamp, I have seen some good little stints from Jalen Lane. Luke McCaffrey, he's been, around, and he's been, between the starters and the secondary. You have to pay attention to those things. And also, too, we can't forget that those two guys paid major contributions before the injuries on special teams. Those are
Yeah.
guys that you can't just ignore. So, as much as you want to pick that wide receiver two spot, it's still up for grabs. But from what I've seen primarily, I honestly, because if you think about it, when you see Terry, you want a guy that aligns with Terry, has the mindset like Terry, but is kind of the opposite. Terry's more of the deep threat. You need a
Yeah.
guy that in that slot position or that can play the outside pretty well. And I think that's what they kind of tested a lot over the mini camp period. Van is a great option, but there also are other guys like Diami. So, you have to, look at the whole room as a whole. And with the running back room, Bill didn't practice. He didn't practice during OTAs. We got to see him practice during minicamp. He looked fast. He looked like there's nothing going on. But at the same time, there are other guys like Katrin Allen and, Rashad White who are better in the pass protection. So there's a lot of diversity in both of these rooms. It's all about picking the right guys to do the job.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. It's been a lot of focus on the receivers, and I was kind of
Hmm.
talking to Josh about how that number two receiver role is kind of the one that everybody's looking at. I would say right now it's Antonio Williams for sure.
Hmm.
But essentially they have a lot of depth when it comes to guys that are 3, 4, and 5 receivers. It's just
Yeah.
really getting the top. They need to be a little bit more top heavy, and I think they're hoping that one of these guys, kind of morphs into that. The running back room has been interesting as well because you're right. Bill not being able to practice through OTAs kind of threw him a little bit behind on this mini camp where he was practicing on the one side of the field with the guys who were getting more run.
Yeah.
He obviously looks great, like when it comes to his ability running with the ball in his hands, but he did struggle a little bit catching the ball still, right? Like there was some little hiccups here and there, and I think the more he can increase his ability to pass protect as well as catch the ball out of the backfield, the more he could be that franchise back that they're looking
Yeah.
for. But the one thing that's clear is that there's a lot more talent around this team. There probably needs to be more, and obviously we know the Brandon Ayuk stuff is still out there, and I think that if he does end up being available, he's obviously going to be a guy who would probably be interested in coming here and be on the squad, and
Yeah.
that'll make that conversation who makes this team if Van Jefferson or Traylon, like if one of these guys gets bumped off because of it. So, very interesting. The one thing I think I want to end on, when it comes to the offense is the offensive line.
Yes.
What has impressed you about the O-line, so far? It's kind of hard to be impressed so far because of the fact that they don't have pads on. So it's really just a lot of
Yeah.
big guys moving in T-shirts. But has there anything that stood out to you overall watching them?
It's funny because, no one really likes to ask me questions about the O line. So I'm actually kind of excited about this question because it's like we've been seeing the competition at the right guard position and we've been trying to
Yeah.
figure out who's going to be that guy. Is it going to be a Chris Paul or a Brandon Coleman? Who is
Yeah.
going to take that spot? And,
Yeah.
I'm still. I'm still in a place where I need to see more, right? I'm still kind of in that place where I need to see more because Brandon Coleman, outside of the injuries, there was a certain type of consistency there, but also too, Chris Paul, he had some great practices. So it's something where it's like I have to see more in order
Yeah.
to determine who I choose in this, but also at the same time on the O line, I really have been a little impressed with Josh Connerly Jr., not just, by what the practice looks like, but he really took this off season to, buy into the Learn Me Tunsil way.
Yeah.
He even talked about it. Learn Me talked about it 2 practices ago, where, him and Josh have been working over the summer and just going over basic things like the diet, the everyday workouts,
Yeah.
how should I be carrying myself, on the outside, what decisions am I making that impacts me on and off the field? It's more than just about football at that aspect. It's more about, the mind, body, and the soul and at that point. And I feel
Yeah.
like, that's something that learned me, really emphasized, he's like, I'm on Josh all day, every day. That is a kid that's growing, and he's like, I'm rooting for him. Like, he was like, I know I'm a veteran, but he's up next, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just love that mentality. And I love that because while there is competition, and this goes for everyone, while there is competition and we're trying to pick, oh, who's going to start, who's doing this, who's doing that, these guys are also pushing each and every one another to be better. And that's
Hmm.
what I love about that. And specifically for the O line, the O line is kind of like, it hasn't been tampered with too much because there were a lot of O line changes last year. But
Hmm.
I will say that, the right guard is definitely, the position that everybody's looking at. And then just seeing the evolution of Josh Connolly Jr., I do think that he could potentially, stand out this year.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, I mean, I pretty much agree. There's not too much more to go in regards to the O line. It was good seeing Tunsil out there. I mean, and
Yeah.
you're right. Like Tunsil and Connerly, like Connerly's smart enough to know that he's going to stick on Tunsil's hip and learn everything he can from him. And if he was to make that big jump as well, this O
Yeah.
line will be really, really hard to beat. I mean, they have some really tough teams. They got to play the Rams with Miles Garrett. You know what I
Yep.
mean? They got to play the Eagles twice. Obviously, there's a lot of good teams with good D lines that they're going to have to interact with. So
Hmm.
now, look, I mean, we've talked about pretty much all the positions. What I kind of wanted us to be able to do like three players, and it doesn't necessarily mean to be like standout players or
Yeah.
just three intriguing stories or players that you're watching overall or that
Hmm.
caught your eye for one reason or another. And we'll do this for offense and defense. So, give me
Yeah.
your three guys on offense that you want to talk about.
Okay, so my three guys on offense, I'll start off.
Hmm.
One of them is a running back, and that is
Yeah,
Rashad White. He's
yeah.
really caught my eye
Hmm.
this offseason, just throughout OTAs and mini camp. Obviously he's had more reps than Bill. A lot of people towards the end of last season, they're like, oh, Bill could potentially be the running back one for this team. But
Hmm.
I still think that Rashad White, he has that experience. We got to see, I even posted a video of him on Twitter, getting a catch, and that kind of went viral. Just little things. I honestly did have a video of Bill, but the problem was is I do feel like that Bill is still getting more comfortable in
Sure.
that spot. He's there, like he hasn't missed too many catches, but
Hmm.
Rashad White is more consistent. I
Yeah.
do feel like Bill does have the opportunity to get there. He's growing, and he even told the media the other day. He told us the other day that he is trying to get there, that he is doing everything that he can to have that dog mentality that DQ was looking for,
Hmm.
and to keep growing and
Hmm.
keep learning. You know,
Hmm.
honestly don't think that that's a bad thing. Bill is still very fast, but I think a guy that stood out to me a lot is Rashad White because not only has he been getting the reps and we've been able to see him in those game style like situations, not specifically full on game pace, but as they're running plays and going over certain scheme things, but we've been able to kind of see him work not only just in the run game but the pass protection game, and it's been pretty solid.
Yeah.
My next guy
Hmm.
is a tight end, and that is Chig. Chig, to
Okay.
me, he has the size, he looks the part. Just his consistency, he also has a certain type of speed on him, which I think is pretty cool. He's like in the middle right now. I would say he is the top guy in the tight end room to me.
He
There's
is.
still a lot to kind of look at. Obviously there's been rumblings of John Bates and Ben Sinnott, but
Hmm.
I feel like that they have two qualities of Chig already
Hmm.
in their own ways, which is
Yeah.
still great because that still adds depth to the tight end room. But I do feel like Chig has been the most consistent. He does bring that size, he does bring that speed. I haven't really seen him drop too many passes. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, everybody's human, everybody makes mistakes, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's practice. But he's been pretty solid. And, Jaden even talked about him, just the development of the tight end room, just having more options.
Yeah.
And I think that, that kind of speaks to Chig.
Okay.
And
And
then
your last
my
person?
Yes, my last guy, and I mentioned him before, is Josh Connolly Jr.
Hmm.
I just love the way that he is carrying himself this offseason, me personally, like he cut his hair, people talked about him having a baby face. He just looks more mature, he
Yeah.
looks stronger, he even was talking about how he lost a couple pounds, like just little things just to become better each and every day. I feel like that he's buying into that, and he's taking each day step by step, and he wants to learn, he wants to grow. So, I'm just, excited to see, what he's gonna look like during camp.
Okay. Well, I changed my list a little bit, but I will go with my first person is Antonio Williams, actually. And it's mainly
Mhm.
because of the fact that, like, look, man, he has been looking like that number two receiver. They
Yeah.
definitely, when we talk about guys who are on one field versus the other, and for those who don't know, they split up the fields into kind of with guys who are kind of quote unquote starters or people
Yeah.
that they wanted to go do more install with, where the other group were guys that they wanted to get more reps in. And Antonio Williams was on the side, getting the install all, week, and to be honest, other players did some rotations on going back to one field or the other, and so I think it's clear that how they feel about him, how strong they feel about his ability,
Yeah.
and him as a separator is going to be huge for Jaden. You did talk about Terry, and I think Terry could have easily been on this list, but we're trying to avoid talking
Yeah.
about the top five
Yeah.
stars of the
Obvious
team. But
players.
like, yeah, like Terry's had an incredible camp.
Hmm.
So, like, basically we know what he's capable of, but he does need a running mate, and I think that could be Antonio Williams. And then my second person is Van Jefferson, which is I didn't really want to go with two guys in the same group, but at the same time, the Van Jefferson thing could be more real than we think, right? And it's like it's kind of a mix. I don't even know if it's a to be Van Jefferson, but that Van Jefferson, Diami, or Traylon Burks position, which is like wide
Yeah.
receiver number three at this point, is the
Yeah.
one that's super intriguing. But Van Jefferson has just been catching more and more people's eye. I honestly
He
got to put
has.
more respect on his name because I thought he was more of like a camp body, kind of like Michael Gallup was last year. But it seems like the coaching staff, trusts him a little bit more. And
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. I mean, he is a burner. He's fast as heck. So that
He
is one
is.
thing that is always going to be great to have is somebody that you can, do a screen to and he can outrun people or,
Hmm.
catch him on the outside, stuff like that. And then my last person that I wanted to talk about is Ben Sinnott. And the real reason why is because Ben Sinnott is like an X Factor kind of person where we don't know what's going to happen with him. He's been playing kind of a little bit of that use check, halfback kind of role. Excuse me. Yeah, and it's basically one of these things where like he can be somebody who can be in the backfield as well as on the tight end side. He can block
Yeah.
really well. I think they're going to find a lot of different ways to get him the ball. Obviously, Chig is going to be that number one threat at the tight end room. But I
Hmm.
think that, like, if he can do things kind of like what Kyle Juszczyk does for the 49ers, I think that would be super ideal for this squad, especially since they're going to have a lot more two back and two back and three tight end sets. So that's
Yeah.
my three people. So we'll see what happens with that, and let's go on to defense, right? So,
Yeah.
look, to me, the defensive side of the ball has been even more exciting. I mean, I think both sides have
Hmm.
been exciting. The defense looks like completely different because I think, we've seen a lot of changes on the offense when it comes to, the way they're calling plays and the scheme and all that stuff, but it's a lot of the same players. Whereas on the
Hmm.
defensive side of the ball, it's like completely brand new guys all over the place, especially the D line. So, what have you seen with the D line? What excites you about the D line?
Oh, I even said this on Twitter. Like, I would say maybe towards the middle or the end of OTAs, the D line looks monstrous, man. I it like
Huge group, huge group.
the thing about that group is that I think it's gonna be something that could be really special. There's just been a lot that comes with the D line. I don't want to give too much away because we've seen a lot, but the D line looks monstrous, man. It looks those guys, they're trying to look fast, they're trying to look massive. And I think, it's really going to play a part. That's what makes me so excited about these joint practices that are
Yeah,
coming up because it's like we'll get to see. And when the pads come on, obviously, we'll get to see, how these guys really move. I think the idea for the defense this year, which a lot of people were concerned about, was are they going to go younger? Are these guys going to be stronger? Can these guys take on the role? And for the defense as a whole, they kind of went younger, but also stronger with some true veteran presence that isn't too old, if that makes sense. It's kind of all over the place, but in the best way possible. And I just love how DQ was very intentional about that this year. Durante Jones just him bringing the knowledge that he had in Minnesota down here. And just, I liked how he said earlier in the offseason, him and David Blau, they look at things that they've seen over time, but then they also keep what's great and, and keep what's been working for this team, right? And I just like how they've been able to put the pieces together, but the D line looks really, really good.
Yeah, they look bigger. They look faster. They look everything. Like, the D line, and specifically the edges, were a part of the problem last year. I don't think a lot of people wanted to talk about the DBs and corners and all that stuff, but they really did not have a good pass rush, especially when Dietrich Wise was hurt. They really lost a lot. Then Dorrance Armstrong gets hurt. They lost even more. And that's the thing that's crazy is those guys aren't even back yet. And they still have guys that, a Minihue looks big, Deron Payne looks big. Like there's guys in this team and they're very multiple. There's a lot of different fronts, seeing Owe and Caleb on the outside as well. I mean, they're going to scare some teams, right? Like, I definitely think there's going to be some quarterbacks that are like going to be nervous and worried about playing the squad. So I just thought they looked bigger. I think they look faster. So obviously they're going to look faster. There's no pads on right now.
Yeah.
So they look quick, but they looked the part. Like, I mean, I don't think they inflicted fear in anyone last year when it came to their D line. I think that's a very, very different looking group. It's probably the most, change. I think them and the linebackers, which we'll get to, have been the biggest changes, but that just the front seven overall, being able to bring pressure to the quarterback a lot more is very exciting for this defense because that was something that they desperately needed last year that they did not have. So let's talk about the linebackers. We're talking about pressure and we know that Durante Jones' style of defense, which is similar to Brian Flores', or at least we believe it's going to be. It's a lot of pressure from the linebackers, right? We saw Lulu do that a lot 2 years ago, not so much last year. But not only do they have Lulu, they have Chanel. Leo Chanel. They have Sonny Styles, obviously, who we see can do a lot, and it sounds like he's been wearing their green dot. And then they still have, Jordan McGee. Like, they have some guys. So what's your take on the linebackers? Like, who do you expect to kind of ball out on that side of the ball?
So for the linebacker room, I got to be honest, I was kind of a little concerned about the room because I'm like, damn, like this room looks so crowded. Because last year, obviously, it's what Bobby Wagner brought to this team last year is just unmatched, right? He had the leadership, he had the play style, to be a guy at his age, still getting those types of tackles, still putting up those types of stats is phenomenal. But it was also a certain period in time where I'm like, okay, yes, Bobby is great, but this defense, I feel like it was also too because they had guys, they had a lot of older guys in that room as well, along with Bobby. So it did feel like everybody was just older. But I do feel like, Bobby did bring something, like I said, that was unmatched. And when you look at the linebacker room, everybody was like, well, when Bobby's gone, who's going to step up in that room? I remember last year we were talking about, is that going to be Kane Medrano? Is that going to be Jordan McGee? Jordan McGee, I feel like he kind of started to look more like himself towards the end of the season. Obviously, injuries played a role, and he was still learning, still trying to get his fitting on this team, right? Definitely wanted to see more of Jordan. I feel like we did see some of Jordan, but there's still a lot more that I want to see. I need more assurance that Jordan can be in those game-like situations. As much as I think that he can, I just didn't see that too much over this offseason period from what I saw. I mean, what I love about this linebacker room is we've seen guys like Sonny Styles, obviously, the draft pick that they had, first-round draft pick. He's been playing the part. He's been looking the role. We even heard Owe call him a baby Bobby. Like, those things, so early on. I mean, I was kind of afraid of that for him, but, I think it suits him. He's acting the part. His demeanor is different. Even
he takes it on. I don't think he's nervous about those kind of titles and stuff like that.
He's not. And what I love about even Sonny was talking about pads. I'm like,
Yeah,
like
like he
he's
wants to
like,
get
I'm ready for
after
the
it too.
pads.
Yeah, no, I think they should all feel that way right now because like
Yes.
the football we're seeing is not true football. They need to
Yeah.
get back to like actually hitting each other and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. So this 35-day break between now and training
Yeah.
camp, I'm sure they're going to get their mind right. So,
Yeah.
um,
And
okay, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and just to end this for the linebacker room, seeing guys like Sonny is like we've also were also looking for, linebackers that had a little bit of size on him. Like Sonny is a big dude,
He
so
is a
is
huge guy.
Leo.
Him
So,
and Leo are insane. Like when
yes.
you look at the like Bobby was a pretty big dude.
Hmm.
These guys are humongous,
Oh
right? Like they
yeah.
just look so big. So and even McGee's looked like he's been in the gym. Like
Hmm.
they're a big group, and that's the biggest
Yes.
difference. You can tell how big the front seven is. So let's go to the back end because obviously there
Yes.
hasn't been that many changes when it comes to corners and safeties, but there's a few new guys out there. So like, what's your take on that? I mean, you think that obviously with them getting better pass rush and better, front seven play, the back end's going to be pretty good. But yeah, are you concerned? Because I think, for the fan base, most people are concerned about the safeties and corners. So what can you say? Do you feel that you agree with the fan base, or do you feel like they're right where they need to be?
I agree with the fan base. I'd say maybe 45%.
Okay.
I was at a 60
Hmm.
before the off season really kind of kicked
Hmm.
in, but I feel like that they, really did their job on the defense during free
Yeah.
agency. I feel like, adding Amik Robinson to the cornerback room, I feel like
Hmm.
that was a great choice. I feel like he's a guy that can potentially ball out this year.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
the safety room intrigues me the most
Yeah.
because we've seen a lot of different scenarios that allow the safeties to add that support for the
Sure.
cornerback room and the linebackers specifically. So what I like about it is that obviously we've seen guys like Nick Cross, we've seen guys, like Tyler Owings. Tyler Owings has intrigued me a lot because I feel like we've seen in the last 2 weeks, we've seen him in various situations that he actually looks the part in.
I mean,
And
Tyler Owens is huge, right?
mhm,
Like he's a huge dude and could play a role in this defense for sure. But go
mhm.
ahead.
Yeah, no, Tyler Owings has it really intrigued me a lot. Um, we've even seen guys, on the cornerback side like Fred Davis really step up. It's been an interesting, DB room,
Hmm.
honestly, as a whole. Obviously Mikey, he's been playing more of a role this year. He's even talked about, stepping up as a leader this year, being on that vocal side. I would say, out of all the players on this team that have been the most on like the vocal side, maybe not the loud, but like, kind of, talking with players, walking through things has definitely been like Jeremy Reeves,
Hmm.
Mikey Sanger, still Terry.
Hmm.
Those are guys I think of as like, okay, you can go to them, ask them about anything, and they'll tell you right away, or they'll
Yeah.
go in depth with it.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are a lot of veterans on this team that can give that advice, that can talk to you, but primarily on the defensive side, Mikey has been involved a lot, and I love that for him. I
Yeah.
I hope that he, brings that energy this year. I feel like, last year it was a lot of scheming issues that really messed up a lot of different things last year on defense. Obviously, that's obviously why coordinators have changed. But
Yeah.
at the same time, the safety room is the one that intrigues me the most because we've seen even since OTAs that they've been doing different looks with them and
Hmm.
different formations that look very interesting. So, I'm
Yeah.
excited to see, how that translates out on the field because it just provides that extra support that people were hoping for and
Hmm.
looking for without having them too far out where they get beat, right?
Yeah.
So, I just love that.
I think that people have been harsh on this group, and I think it's like I said. I think sure some of them could deserve some of the blame, but I think for those who don't realize how much a pass rush and coverage go hand in hand, like you can't really have great coverage if you don't have a pass rush.
Yeah.
You can't have great pass rush if you don't have great coverage, and so they really need to be working together. And I think with the upgrades in the front seven, that the DBs will have much more success this year.
Mhm.
So let's get get into just the three players. Like obviously we have, I made sure that we picked three players each to talk about that are intriguing, just like we did for the offensive side. Give me your three players real quick.
My first player is safety Tyler Owings. Not the thing that I love about Tyler is that as a safety, he brings the safety vibe, but he also has the size and the ability to do more. I feel like that he personally, I feel like Tyler can switch between both rooms when you're talking about a DB just based on his size, but at the same time, I feel like he's a guy that you can put almost anywhere and he can adjust. It's all about can we actually see that in game scheme and in game play. So he's somebody that stood out to me the second day when we got to see the defense out there. He's a guy that really paid close attention in the drill. Was very involved. So he's on my list. My next guy is Leo Chanel. I really just love his demeanor. We got to kind of speak to him on was it the second practice or the last day? I remember he spoke and he was just, talking about how, just the linebacker room in general. He was like, we're trying to grow and build each other up. We're trying to do better. Just the way he carries himself and how he speaks, it really speaks volume. It gives kind of leader, which they are looking for. I still think, he still even admitted that he has a lot to learn and that he's, trying to buy in and get other guys to buy into Durante's scheme, to buy into DQ's way. And I think, that kind of speaks volume. And he's had some really great practices, so that's something to kind of keep an eye on. And yeah. And then my last guy is Sonny. Obviously, Sonny's a pretty obvious one. Obviously, we talked about not going with obvious players, but Sonny just, overall, throughout OTAs, throughout practice in general, Sonny has been a guy that we've seen, we've talked about, is Sonny wearing that green dot? We talked about, is he that green dot type of guy? And he's living up to that. I think Sonny has a lot that he can bring. He could potentially be that next Bobby on this team. And, to be such a leader or to have those titles at such a young age is pretty impressive. So I'm excited for them.
Well, those are three great choices, right? I think Sonny might be an obvious one because he's the first round pick this year, but at the same time, he has been impressive just with his demeanor and his ability to learn very quickly, and the fact that we are hearing rumblings that he has been running, the green dot and being that middle linebacker. He could be a huge addition to this squad, right? If they believe what he can do, what they think he can do, he's going to be a huge addition overall. So I'll give my three. My first one is Nick Cross. He's a Terp. From Maryland, right? I obviously am maybe a little biased as well because I covered him when he was at Maryland. But I just think he's an excellent addition. He's a strong physical presence there. It's one of these guys that, some of these guys are doing well, but they're going to look even better when the pads come on and they actually can hit some people and show their ability to tackle and all that kind of stuff. I think that they got a steal with him being a local guy. I think, really excited to come back to the DMV. I think he'll have a lot of pride in playing for these colors since he grew up rooting for this team. So watch out for Nick Cross to really, bolster his career up. He's already been known as a top 10 safety in the league. So I have a lot of confidence in him. My second person is Johnny Newton, and it's mainly because Johnny Newton looks like he went in the gym and really got his body right. And I think it's a mix between the fact that Johnny Newton's there, as well as the new D-line coach Henderson being there with him as well. Somebody who's coached up Aaron Donald, who Aaron Donald raved about. Clearly coaching matters, right? And I think that getting in the right fit with the right person can really change your career. We talk about Johnny Newton, forget that this guy was, Big Ten defensive player of the year when he was coming out of the draft, right? Like he was a top 15 PFF draft pick that they stole in the second round. So, and he really started to look more the part at the end of the season last year. And now with a new scheme, with a new coaching staff, I think he's somebody that I would love to see kind of boost himself up. And I think he has the ability to do so. My third one, I changed it up, but my third one here is Amik Robertson, right? And I think it's because of the fact that Amik is one of the most underrated signings that they brought in. It was one that not people loved a lot, and I'll keep it real with everybody. I didn't love it immediately when it happened. I was kind of like, I was hoping for more of a splash at corner. The more I watch his film, and it's less about just him and his ability, but also the energy that he brings. Like, I think Durante Jones described him either as a pit bull or a bulldog. Even one of those dogs are going to be tough people that you want to battle with. And so basically he is a strong presence in the secondary that they need. I don't think they have they struggled, I think, with leadership, especially at corner last year. I don't think Marshawn's a great player. I just don't think Marshawn was ever like a strong, like, leader overall. And I think that Amik brings that vibe a lot more. And I just think that with him paired with Trey Amos when he gets back, and the fact that he can play inside and outside, we've been seeing him and Mikey kind of figuring out what side they're going to be on. I just think that if he can play that slot and outside corner role, that's kind of the guy that's going to really, really help bolster that back end of the secondary. So that's my three. Before we go, though, I don't want to go without talking about the kickers, man.
Oh my God!
You already know about Tress, and like we could talk about Tress. We could talk about kick and kick off and kick return, punt return. I want to talk kickers because I know how much last year you were very. I mean, if people have been watching us since last year you were very adamant about the fact that you were annoyed that they didn't bring competition to go with Magay, right? So
yes.
This year they brought the competition. What are you seeing? What do you like about it?
I got to give the Commanders organization their cheers, their props.
Yeah.
Thank you for this kicker competition.
Yeah.
It was well needed. It lights a fire under both of them. And I just love it. Honestly, I love it. Hands down. It is competitive. It pushes both players. And what's so funny about it is Jake Moody was winning the competition by a couple of extra kicks. But what I love about the last practice that we were just at, they were both 6 for 6.
Okay, and first of all, we can say, I don't know if we can say he was winning because technically we haven't been there at every practice. Right?
Well, yes,
but based upon what we've seen,
based on
I
the
think
media
that,
practice.
I think based upon what we've seen, he might have been like one kick ahead or something like that. But either way, go ahead. Yeah, I got it.
But this is the thing. Jake Moody, the reason, like, it's not that anybody didn't trust Jake Moody. I'm gonna start there. It's the fact that can you win in this competition in the off season, and then also to perform and be the right decision that they chose in game play for field goals. That was the biggest issue. When nothing else was working last year, at least the field goals was something that could have been a reassurance factor for this team, and it wasn't. And they waited all the way up until Madrid to be like, okay, Matt's cut. And I was like, we're like 6-7 games in. You waited this long when it came down to the deciding factor of the game winner to say, okay, Matt, you're gone. You're out.
Yeah.
That's what made me so mad about it, because it's like, usually, like, when it comes to decision making, obviously people were getting on AP because they're like, oh, he doesn't know how to sign kickers. He doesn't know, kicker knowledge. This year, I feel like he did his homework. Jake, it gives Jake the opportunity to be in competition, to practice and work on his craft, enhance his craft. He has experience in the NFL, but at the same time, he got cut from his last team in order to be here. So we also have to consider that. Drew Stevens, rookie, guy that's still learning. But Jake Moody is more consistent. However, Drew Stevens is the stronger kicker to me. Yeah. And that's kind of like what I've seen throughout camp is it's like, well, not camp, mini camp, OTAs,
all
it's like you can hear Like, not even being
It
dramatic.
sounds different. It sounds different. It looks different. Like there's a different the kicks when you see them, they're different, right? Like it's not they're both having success and it's a very close battle. I mean, I feel like, if they're both even, I think you would go with Stevens because he's a younger guy.
Oh, yes.
And he's been pretty clutch in college. Like being clutch in the NFL is very
Yes.
different than being clutch in college. So like, we'll see if he can perform, but
Yeah.
ultimately, like I'm with you on that, and I think it says a lot about not only just AP but DQ as well. The fact that they're having this because Moody played well enough last year that they could have just rocked with Moody again this year, which is what I thought they would do. So the fact that they went and got another guy that they felt strong about, hey, like let's bring a competition in
Yeah.
here. I think it's kind of like we've said it before. We feel like DQ sometimes is too nice and he's too loyal, and I think that's where you're seeing he's not super loyal this year. It's like, hey, if you're not going to perform, we'll get somebody who can perform.
Well,
And
because
I
to
think,
be honest, too, not even to cut you off,
no, yeah, go ahead.
if this season goes how last season went,
He's gone. Yeah, like it's very. I mean, I don't know how long of a leash that DQ has, but if they have a very similar like 5-12 season this year, I don't see how he comes back. I mean, I could see him coming back if they go like 7-9 or 8-8 or something like that, or 8.
even then, anything that's
But-
better than last
Yeah,
season.
but
of
yeah,
course.
last year was so bad.
And
that
I
if
love
they were to do
DQ.
something yeah, I'm a huge fan of DQ. I don't want DQ to go, but I also know that you have to perform. Like this is a business. This is football. It's
Mm-hmm.
just how it goes, and you generally have 3 years to show some true
Yeah.
success. And unfortunately, if it's weird because he had such good success the first year, you think like, oh, he's good, and that might buy him another year, you know what I mean? Just because of how well they did the first year, but we'll see. I mean, I think all the moves that they're doing this year is showing that they're serious about changing things up
Yeah.
and getting back to where they were in 24. But yeah, I think that's why you kind of have to you can't be too nice when it's going to cost you your job. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So yeah. So I'm with that. I don't think we need to talk about anything else really.
Yeah.
Because
Also-
obviously, yeah. Go ahead.
Shout out, because you mentioned
too.
Nick Cross. Shout out the DeMatha Stags. Like,
Yeah.
people sleep, and that's another thing too. Whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. With someone like, because I am from Baltimore, look at the DMV as a whole. Baltimore's not the DMV, but I look at the DMV as a whole.
Yeah.
You gotta give these DMV athletes their props and
Oh,
their
yeah.
flowers for sure. I feel like everybody's so quick to be like, oh, let's go get these athletes from California and Texas.
No, a lot of good talent comes out of
Yeah,
this area. For
absolutely.
Sure. A lot of good talent. And so it's cool to see when they come back, right? Like you don't see that often enough. And
Yes.
as being people who cover local sports, not just the Commanders, but like
Yes.
everything, it is cool to see some of these guys that have performed at some of these schools and, ended up, going to the league. And if they can find their way back over here, that's great to see that full circle moment. I do think that there's some extra pride and extra excitement for Nick Cross specifically. I mean, he was a very vocal Redskins fan. Very
Absolutely.
vocal, right? So like, it's very clear that he's all about this squad. So for him to be able to come back and wear those colors again, I expect big things from him. So, we do rock with all the squads here for sure. DeMatha is definitely one of them.
Yes.
And so, yeah, we'll see what happens in the future. But
Yeah, hopefully we'll see him out at a game. Sometimes
I'm sure he will.
NFL players, they like to go out to the
I'm
games
sure
and
he'll
stuff.
go to the game. We'll see him at Maryland. We'll see him at the
Yep.
I'm sure it'll
Absolutely.
be everywhere. So, anyways, well, look, Skylar, that was good. Catch up. I mean, obviously, it's been a minute, y'all. So
Yes.
we appreciate you guys rocking with us. If you're still here watching, we are sorry it took us so long to get a video out.
It was his
That's
fault,
on me.
guys.
It is on me. I'll take credit for it because moving, especially when you got an 11-month-old, it's definitely much harder than it looks. But I'm glad we're here. There's more videos to come, especially during this break. I mean, we have a 35-day break. We hope that we get more news, maybe some more roster changes. The IOU thing, I hope eventually
Maybe a signing.
gets
You never
signed,
know.
or I mean something. Either he goes back to San Fran or goes somewhere else or gets signed. I'm
He's
tired.
not
I
going
mean,
back to San Fran.
I don't
but
think he's going back to San
I
Fran
don't
either,
think
but
so
I
either.
just need something.
It's a little
to happen.
ugly right now.
I need something to happen and for this story to be over, or at least
Yeah.
a new beginning to this story. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll be keeping up with news and all that kind of stuff. I'll be dropping, I think, a photo photo video to show some of the photo work that I've been doing at these 3 days of camp as well. So look out for that. Just want to say thank you guys for rocking with us. If you aren't subscribed, please subscribe, man. We're trying to get up there. We're trying to be just like all the big dogs on the YouTube space. So please do that, and to share the work if you see us. And thank you guys for your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.
Later.